year student who is a second-year PhD student in the department. And so I'm going to briefly just give an overview about our program, and then Zoe is going to come on and talk a little bit about what it's like to be a student in the program and her experience thus far. And so I'll start sharing my screen. Okay. So let me begin. All right. Okay. Oops. All right, so why consider the Department of Molecular Genetics for your graduate studies? And I should start off by saying today I'm just going to talk about our research-based master's and PhD programs. And so I think one of the things that sets molecular genetics, or MoGen for short, apart is really the sort of diversity, size, and quality of our faculty. We are a huge department with well over 100 labs, many of whom are 100 faculty, many of whom are really leaders in their fields, world-leading leaders in their fields. And I think this is a really important consideration when you're choosing graduate programs, because you're going to spend your time mostly in one lab. And so it's really important to find a lab that does interesting work that you're interested in and is cutting edge. And I think that in MoGen, you're spoiled for choice. So I think that's really one of the sort of outstanding features of our program. Given the diversity and the size of our program, it's not surprising then that our research spans a number of areas, which we well beyond genetics, as our name might suggest, and we divide those research areas into roughly 6 parts, or 6 different groups. And these span from things like genetic models of development of disease. For instance, these are people studying really sort of basic questions of biology using genetically tractable models. For instance, my lab, we use Drosophila for our studies. To people who are studying molecular medicine and human genetics. Many of the faculty at the Hospital for Sick Children are members of the Department of Molecular Genetics. We have people that are doing really detailed structural biology and biochemistry. If you're interested in microbiology, understanding sort of bacteria and yeast, MoGen is really the department for you, because we have most of the microbiologists at the university in our department. And I think really importantly, we have a real strength in computational systems and systems biology and molecular genetics. And anyone who's considering going into graduate school now, I think really needs to at least begin to develop some skills in those areas. And we just have a great deal of expertise, and we take it upon ourselves to teach all of our incoming students the basics. We also, for that matter, offer a stream in computational biology. Okay. Our faculty and our labs are distributed among 6 different research facilities, all within the heart of Toronto and within a short walking distance from one another. And these are cutting-edge research facilities that will have all the equipment you could ever need to succeed in your graduate studies. If you want to do cutting-edge super resolution microscopy, we have the microscope. So these are really, really great resources. Okay, so we have a huge department, and so I think really the next question is, when you join the department as a graduate student, how do you find the lab that's going to work for you? And to help facilitate that, and to make sure that you are placed in a lab where you ultimately can thrive and succeed as a graduate study, we offer a rotation system. And this is, I think, quite unusual for Canada. Most departments don't offer rotation systems, and it's a real selling feature of our program. And what that is it's a system that allows you to sample 3 different research labs before ultimately choosing the one that you're going to pursue your graduate studies in. Typically, if you entered in September, you would rotate in 3 different labs, 5 weeks each. So come January, you would then have make your choice of the lab you're going to ultimately pursue your graduate studies in. And that would then be an informed choice. And we think this is just really an essential component of our program, and an essential component to make sure that students find environments that they can thrive in. So what is it like to be a student in MoGen? I'm going to just briefly touch upon this. I think Zoe is much better placed to speak about this particular, speak to this particular question. But a typical MoGen student, I would describe, we actually have a very diverse student body. We're pretty international, our graduate program. Mojang students typically are very high achieving, collaborative, and I think really engaged. We're really proud of the community that our Mojang students have helped build. I think, for example, that's best evidenced perhaps by just how active our graduate student association is. They're constantly sort of organizing events and newsletters and the like. And so when you join the program, you're not on your own. You're supported by quite a actively engaged student community. Okay. So what do you do, or what happens to you when you complete your graduate degree in Mojang? So what are the typical outcomes? So our graduates, were really proud of them, and many of them have gone on to be leaders in academia, research, healthcare, and private sector. I think it was mentioned before that the 10,000 PhD project. So I'll show you some graphics from that. So about half of the students that enter, I'm speaking specifically to PhD students that finish our program, go on to continue on in academia, and then about a quarter into the private sector, and then other paths. Of those that ultimately pursue careers in academia, about a quarter ultimately secure tenure stream faculty positions, and that's really quite high. I mean, that's really impressive. And then those that go into the private sector, about a quarter of them end up pursuing careers in biotechnology and pharmaceuticals. So that gives you a sense of what you can do with the PhD from molecular genetics. To ensure that our students are successful, we actively engage our alumni through frequent networking events. We have monthly workshops with our alumni, and then we actually have a yearly annual symposium. And that's, we hope that our current students can learn from the successes of our past ones. So I'm just going to give you some basic sort of application procedures now, some sort of information about kind of the program itself. So we have two streams, a master's stream, and that's for applicants who have never enrolled in a master's before. And then after your first year, you're given the opportunity to either continue in the master's stream or reclassify into the PhD stream. We also offer a direct entry PhD stream, and those are for applicants that either already have a master's degree or have an A- or higher average in all relevant courses from their undergraduate degree. Here in the PhD stream, we offer specifically, in addition to the sort of regular wet lab track, the computational biology track, for those who are really, really interested in pursuing computational biology. As is the case across the Faculty of Medicine, all of our students are guaranteed a stipend, which covers both tuition and also living expenses. And this is true for both domestic and international students. And we think that if you're going to work and do a PhD or graduate school, you should be paid for doing so. If you're interested in our program, the full application procedures are on our website. So I would, in the first instance, encourage you to go here. Once you've assembled all of your application materials, you can submit your application to SGS. We offer 3 deadlines for submitting applications per year, per cycle: November, January, and May 1st. And we encourage you to apply when your application is best. So we don't have quotas, so a spot's not going to fill up. So apply when your application is strongest. Although that said, it's better to apply earlier for things like scholarship applications. So again, apply when your application is best. We also offer a September deadline for a January entry if you're interested. And then I'll briefly touch upon the application procedure. So we have a letter of intent, and in the letter of intent, what we encourage you to do is you need to really say why you're interested in doing interested in science, why the Department of Molecular Genetics. Typically, students will name professors they're interested in working with, and then what your relevant research experience is. And then any extenuating circumstances you should also list in your letter of intent. We then need, of course, the transcripts and evidence of outstanding education. Typically, we're looking for a minimum of a B+ average, and we particularly pay attention to relevant courses such as genetics, biochemistry, particularly your last few years. Normally, we really strongly emphasize lab experience, and so that's normally a requirement to enter our program, and we think that's important because we think you should know what what this is have some sort of knowledge of what you're getting yourself into, and having lab experience is really helpful there. And that's beyond the classroom. So those are like a 4th year thesis project, for example. However, I should note that because we are aware of the sort of difficulties securing like a lab experience this year due to COVID, we are sort of waiving that strict requirement. And so if you don't have lab experience, we still encourage you to apply. You just need to explain that in your letter of intent so we know. And then letters of and a CV. Okay, so I think I've probably said more than enough about the program, and I'm happy to take questions after. And now I'm going to hand it over to Zoe, and Zoe can speak to sort of, I guess the last thing I'll say is I think the best people to talk to if you're interested in doing graduate studies in our department are our grad students. They're the ones who will tell you what it's actually like. And so Zoe is about to do that, but I always encourage people to reach out. Okay, now I will shut up and hand it over to Zoe.
Great, thank you, Thomas, and thank you so much for that great presentation and introduction to the department. So first of all, I want to start off by saying I understand how stressful this probably is for a lot of you right now, thinking about what types of grad school you might be interested in pursuing. You might even be debating grad school itself. I just started my 2nd year of a direct entry PhD into the computational biology stream of molecular genetics. But a couple of years ago, I was definitely in that boat, incredibly confused. I applied to both master's programs in science and art because I really didn't know where I wanted to go. And what made me end up choosing molecular genetics was really the application process itself, in the sense that I only applied to master's programs after my undergrad. And when I applied to molecular genetics, one of the faculty members who had read my letter of intent reached out to me, offered to have a Skype call with me. And he knew that because of my letter of intent, I mentioned I was interested in computational biology. That was what I really was interested in on the science side of things. And in this call, we had like a 1-hour chat where he told me all the reasons he felt I should come to this program, and not only as a master's student, but as a direct entry PhD student. And it was during that call that really convinced me that this is where I need to be. And I had never expected such an application process to be so personal. And ever since I've entered the faculty, that experience of feeling like all of the faculty really care about me, really care about what I'm doing and my future, that has never left. And I've been able to have a lot of interesting perspectives in the department, being on the Graduate Student Association as well, where I've also been in touch with the incoming class that's coming into our program right now this September. I've had a lot of contact with them. I've had a lot of contact with the faculty, and it's incredible to see how much everybody cares. So starting this year, we've taken some new mental health initiatives because the students and faculty together decided that imposter syndrome was really an issue that we wanted to address and talk about more. And understanding that that was really a concern of the students, everyone just sort of teamed up, and we ended up bringing in a speaker to talk about it, and everyone was on board with this. So it's been a fantastic experience. Every day that goes on, I feel more at home and like this is the place that I am meant to be. And I wasn't sure I would ever feel this way because I came from an ecology background. So I studied in my undergrad ecological, I was studying birds. And I came into the Faculty of Medicine. And at first I didn't even know how to read medical journals because they just kept talking about genes, and I'd never worked with individual genes because that's not always what you do in ecology. So even with that huge learning curve, I felt nothing but support. And so I guess that's my endorsement to the program as a whole, because I really genuinely have had a great experience. Of course, it really depends on you and what you want to do. I really wanted to study computational biology, and it's given me a lot more than that, more than I could have thought that I wanted. So hopefully wherever you end up, you'll really feel that sense of purpose. And it's tough, that's to make these sorts of decisions. So if you still feel like extra confused at the end of all these sessions, that's completely okay. We've all been in that boat. So yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Great. Thanks, Zoe. That's wonderful. So I guess now we've left enough time for questions. If people have them, I guess they will. Okay, great. There's one for you, Zoe. I'll let you read it out and then answer it.
Sure. So the first question for me is, did I have any previous coding experience from undergrad or high school? Definitely not from high school. I started coding in the summer after my third year of university, and I learned it mostly during my research experience. So I learned it as I went. I had problems to solve that required coding, and then I took one introductory Python course in university. And now I am in a specialized PhD program that involves a lot of coding. So it doesn't take long to learn, I can tell you that.
Okay. So I'll field the next one. So in terms of direct entry, we don't have a strict number of years of research experience required. If you're entering from an undergraduate degree, typically we would assess, we really do strongly prefer you to have in-lab research experience sort of outside of the classroom. But again, this year, because of COVID, we've discussed this internally at length, and we are waiving that strict requirement. And so you'll just have to explain that in your cover letter. So I do encourage you to apply. Really what determines direct entry are a number of factors. The selection committee will assess you holistically and make the determination. Sometimes they'll even contact you and suggest it if they think you're a good candidate. But certainly you need to have an overall GPA of, or at least a GPA in the relevant courses of an A- or greater to be considered for the direct entry program. Okay, I'll speak to this one too. So medical genomics program, I am a little bit unclear on that. So we offer in, let me just check. I should. Medical genomics is a very different program. It's also within the Department of Molecular Genetics. And that is really a master's-based, professional master's-based degree. They have two streams, clinical and laboratory. No previous research experience is required for that. It's really a cohort-driven classroom learning experience with a capstone practicum. It doesn't involve a stipend. And I guess for that, I would encourage you to visit the website for more information about that. But it's not a wholly research-based master's or PhD degree like the other programs that we've been discussing today in molecular genetics. I hope that answers your question, Glenn. Okay. Okay. Sorry, Zoe. I'm just gonna keep on answering questions.
Go ahead.
You chime in when I bungle everything, and you can notice that I'm getting it wrong. Okay. If I need to take a gap year, okay, so I'll read the question. If I need to take a gap year, is there any way to apply and then defer for a year, or would you recommend applying afterwards? Are there disadvantages to applying after a year? That's a very good question. I am not sure of the answer to that question. I don't want to field an answer that I'm not confident about. So what I will do is I will send a message back to you about that, providing I can get your contact information, which I believe I can. So sorry about that, but I will be in touch. Zoe, you may have some information about that?
I was just going to say anecdotally, one thing that might encourage applying a year later rather than deferring is if you were planning on gaining a specific skill set during that year. Like, for example, someone mentioned if you needed coding experience. Well, if you were taking a year off to gain coding experience, like that, for example, could be a great thing to then put on your CV.
Yeah, I mean, I would be inclined to say that I can't think of many disadvantages necessarily to applying the year after. I mean, we normally we accept all eligible or qualified applicants, you know, and that's not going to change. Our program is just growing and growing. So I don't think it. I think perhaps my general recommendation would be to apply when you're ready, but I will kind of fill that. I will send you a more detailed answer to your question later. I don't believe we formally have any preference for molecular genetics specialists, although I would say that if you're in the specialist program, our faculty are more likely to know who you are and have experiences with you, and so that may be of help, but it doesn't formally make you more preferenced, I think, for a direct entry track. Again, your qualifications will be assessed with everyone else, and yeah, that's that. If you meet the qualifications, then you will be accepted. Yeah.
And just to add to that, keep in mind that direct entry PhD sounds really special, but in the end, all master's students are given the opportunity to, oh, I forget the terms. Is it reclass or qualify up to a PhD if they want to? I can never keep those straight.
So Zoe is right. So frankly, though there is a distinction in the program, it is in some ways a distinction without much of a difference. So master's students enter the program and then they have to reclassify into the PhD program. But at the same time, direct entry PhD students have to then take a qualifying exam, and a reclassification exam is the same as a qualifying exam. So there's not really truly much of a difference. The main important difference there is whether or not you're an international student. Most international students enter directly into the PhD program because of stipend reasons, and it makes them less expensive essentially for supervisors. So most of our international students will be direct entry for that reason.
And then I believe the next question is directed at myself. So how did I switch from a science background to a more computer science background? I'm interested in coding after taking an intro uni course, but unsure how to proceed. So I would still consider myself a biologist who knows how to code rather than a coder or computer scientist who understands biology, because I had that biology undergraduate degree. That being said, because I took an introductory coding course and a couple of biological statistics course, I would say that puts me in a more of an expert position if you were to put me in a room of biologists. So I think that what you're doing, if you're unsure how to proceed, I would say you're doing a great thing already, putting yourself into the position where you understand the biology and you're gaining the skill set. And I'm biased, that's sort of what I did, so I think it's a great idea. But if you have any more specifics that you'd like to ask, feel free to put them in the chat.
Okay, I'll read the next question. So Angela asks, what's the completion time for master's and PhD programs? Okay, so on average, it's 2.7 years for our master's and 6.3 for our PhD programs. We're really trying to, you know, control that and get those down. And so there's a number of sort of immediately when you enter the program, you're on a timeline and meetings are sort of assigned. Committee meetings are kind of all pre-ascribed roughly when they're going to occur. We're really trying to kind of keep our time to completion, sort of reduce them, because it is important that people proceed through our program in a timely manner. I think our numbers are typical, are pretty similar to other similar departments in the faculty.
I'll just jump in there again too. I don't know even why I'm talking because I'm only in my second year, but a couple of things that might contribute to this completion time may have nothing to do with the program itself. For example, if you work with Drosophila, just because of the generation time of Drosophila, you might finish a lot faster than someone who works with a mouse model, where you have to wait a couple of years for your mice to breed, for example, or luck plays a big role in it as well. So in terms of time to completion, I'm approaching this with, I have no idea, but if the science is cool, I'm ready to stick it out for as long as it takes to answer some cool questions. It's sort of my perspective, because it's really hard to know.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. Oh, can a direct PhD program be completed in 4 years? How long do you take courses for? Okay, that's a good question. So can you complete the direct PhD in 4 years? That would be very on the fast side. I'm not sure that, I don't believe that there's anything that would prevent that from happening. It's just typically typically it takes longer, just because to develop a full research PhD in our department, I mean, or anywhere, I think involves a number of years. Coursework, though, we can speak a little bit more to. And actually, maybe, so we just revamped our curriculum, and we now have a different course structure. Zoe has just taken it, so I might actually, you're better qualified than I am to speak to this. So why don't I hand that one over to you?
Yeah, sure thing. So my main course component is finished. So what I did last year, which would be like what you would be doing, is during my rotations, which is essentially 1 semester of school, that is when we do a core curriculum to make sure everyone is on the same page with their knowledge base in genetics, genomics, and proteomics, which is great. And then in the following semester, people in the regular track, master's or PhD, will take an introductory computational course. And if you're in the computational specialization, then you take an additional, more advanced computer science course. And that is essentially the end of your required courses, except for certain seminars, which you basically just have to attend, which happen for your first couple of years. And then so that's essentially 1 year of required courses. And then if you're in the regular track, you have to take 2 topic courses. And if you're in the computational track, because you took that sort of difficult computer science course, you have to take 1 additional topic course. And this can be any time before you graduate. So I personally feel like the course load is pretty light, especially coming out of an undergraduate degree. You never really have to take more than 1 course at a time.
I'll just chime in. So we want our students to be mostly in the labs doing experiments. And the one thing we have implemented this core curriculum, and it happens during your rotations in the first semester mostly. So, it doesn't really ultimately conflict with your time in the lab. And we did this because we wanted all our students to be kind of at the same level. We realized that there's a number of different people coming in with different backgrounds, and we really wanted everyone to kind of get a good grounding in the basis of genetics, biology. And so that's been sort of implemented, and it shouldn't really be much of a major kind of time commitment beyond the first semester. And then as Zoe said, we have, that's kind of it. You have your seminars, both a sort of a practice seminar in the first semester, and then you present your work in the second year, in the second half, as a master's student, or and then if you reclass into the PhD program, you take 2 topic courses. And topic courses are typically really kind of specialized, and you would do it ideally in an area that you want to learn about. So, and you get to kind of these are seminars where you sit with professors who are really interested in the subject. I teach one on mitochondria, which is my area, and it's like such a really joy, like it's just really pleasant. So I think that I hope speaks to the course load. Okay, so Angelo, so no, I think we have a mixture of basic science and clinical research in the department. We have a lot of faculty at sick kids, and I would say sick kids tends to be more clinical or medically relevant. I think, I guess it would depend on what you mean by clinical research. It is that many of our faculty are doing kind of basic work. It's just that some of them are, like me, don't care about disease and just love basic biology. Just learning basic knowledge just seems to me fundamental important. But then we also have faculty that really do basic research, but directed toward diseases. And so I think we have a real healthy mix in the department. There's tons of option for both. Yes, there are TA opportunities for MoGen grad students. The great thing about MoGen and also all the other departments in the Faculty of Medicine is you don't need to TA. But you certainly can TA, and there are opportunities. One of my graduate students TAs a undergraduate course. Those are made available to you. It's just really truly optional, but good if you're interested in pedagogy and going into sort of a teaching based direction.
And if you want a little bit of extra money, that's good too.
Yeah, good point. I can't speak entirely broadly about all TA opportunities, but certainly for my course, it is only available to graduate students, and typically we're looking for, graduate students that have passed the qualifying or the reclassification exams just because of the time commitment. That's just because of qualifications really having a grounding in the subject matter. I'm not sure if there are any courses where they do look for undergraduate students. Zoe, I don't know if you have any knowledge of that.
Well, I didn't go to U of T for my undergrad, but I did go to Queen's, and I was able to TA a course in my undergrad. I was the only undergrad that TA'd a course in biology, and it was basically because I wanted to TA a course that nobody else wanted to TA, and I got to know the faculty managing the TAs, the whole cohort of biology TAs. So I would say if it's something you're interested in, figure out who's responsible for it, and I'm sure it's more a personal decision than a system decision. I don't think there's definitely no rule against it.
And opportunities are posted on our website, so you can always check those and look at the specifics should you be interested. So I think we're probably out of time.
Yeah, so I'm going to stop recording.